This Notebook LM video explores the biblical basis for understanding Mary's title as Queen of Heaven or Queen Mother of the Universe. It argues that this title isn't explicitly found in the New Testament, but is derived from a 3,000-year-old royal precedent in ancient Israel. It differentiates between 4 types of queens in biblical narratives.
You know, the title Queen of Heaven is one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, debated titles for Mary in all of Christianity. But have you ever wondered if it's just a beautiful tradition, or if there's actually a 3,000-year-old royal precedent hiding in plain sight within the Bible itself? Well, let's unpack the evidence together. So, some theological traditions paint this really powerful picture of heaven, right? 3 thrones, one for the Father, another for the Son, and a third for the Queen Mother. It's a striking image for sure, but it immediately brings up a huge question for anyone who knows their scripture. And that right there is the central mystery we're diving into. You can search the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and you will not find the phrase, Mary, Queen of Heaven. So where did this idea even come from? Well, the answer, and this might surprise you, isn't really in the New Testament. It's in the royal courts of ancient Israel. Okay, so to solve this puzzle, the first thing we have to understand is that in the ancient world, not all queens were created equal. I mean, we tend to think of a queen as the king's wife, but there was another, often far more powerful royal office that held the real influence. So when you look at the Bible, you see a few different types of queens. You've got your queen consort, that's the king's wife. Think of someone like Queen Esther. Then there's the queen regnant, who rules in her own right, like the famous Queen of Sheba. But the key to our whole mystery, that lies with the third type, the Queen Mother, or in Hebrew, the Gabira. And this wasn't just some honorary title, it was a formal, incredibly powerful position in the kingdom. Now, this role of the Queen Mother was a huge deal, especially in the Davidic kingdom. She wasn't just hanging out in the background, she held a formal position with incredible influence. And understanding her power is really the key that unlocks this entire theological tradition. The Hebrew title for this office was Gabira. And you know what that means? It translates to great lady. I mean, that says it all, right? This was a title of real authority, a public office, not just a family relationship. And we see the power of the Gabira on full display with King Solomon and his mother Bathsheba. Get this, when she enters the room, the king himself rises, he bows to her, and then has a throne brought so she can sit at his right hand. That is the ultimate position of honor and influence in the entire kingdom. So the Gabira was definitely not just a figurehead. She was a trusted royal advisor who held a formal office. And most importantly for our topic, she was the primary intercessor for the people, the one who would bring their petitions directly to her son, the king. All right, so now let's take this powerful Old Testament precedent and connect the dots to the New Testament. We've established this important office of the Queen Mother. So how on earth does this ancient role relate to Mary? Well, the connection starts right at the Annunciation with what the angel tells Mary. Jesus is explicitly named the heir to King David's throne. But, and this is the critical difference, his kingdom will have no end. He is the eternal Davidic king. And this right here raises the crucial question. If every single Davidic king had a queen mother, a Gabira, and Jesus is now the eternal Davidic king, who holds that office in his kingdom? Well, the theological argument is pretty direct. It can only be his mother, Mary. And you know, we actually see a powerful glimpse of this exact role at the wedding at Cana. Just like the Gabira of the Old Testament would bring the people's needs to the king, Mary sees a need. They've run out of wine. So she presents this need to her son, the king. And what happens? In response, he performs his very first public miracle. So the final piece of this biblical puzzle comes from a really symbolic, powerful vision in the book of Revelation. And this is where the imagery of a heavenly queen becomes pretty much undeniable for those who hold this view. So in his vision, the Apostle John sees this magnificent woman in heaven. She's clothed with the sun, the moon is under her feet, and this is the real kicker for our topic, she is wearing a crown of 12 stars. So if we unpack the symbolism here, theologians see a crystal clear portrait of a royal mother. The crown? Well, that's obvious. It signifies queenship.
Being clothed with the Son points to this unique participation in God's glory, and the fact that she is with child confirms her identity as a mother. For many, this is the definitive image of Mary as the glorified Queen Mother in heaven.
So when you put it all together, you see that the title Queen of Heaven isn't something you find in a single verse. No, it's a theological conclusion, and it's built piece by piece from the Old Testament office of the Gabira, from Jesus' role as the eternal Davidic king, and from that powerful vision in Revelation. You see, her queenship isn't her own. It flows entirely from her Son. It's really that simple. She is queen because he is the king. So this leaves us with a pretty compelling thought. Regardless of your specific theological views, it's fascinating how this 3,000-year-old royal tradition from an ancient kingdom continues to shape modern ideas about motherhood, influence, and spiritual power. It's a powerful legacy to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.